Hey guys, I have killed so many Nazis lately. This wasn't just for the benefit of mankind or to stay in practice. Instead, this was in preparation for this very video that I've been promising you guys. Reichbusters is a game heavily influenced by Wolfenstein, and Wolfenstein the board game is, well, obviously fairly inspired as well. But which one is better? If you have one, should you get the other? Other channels might dance around this subject, but I'm here to definitively let you know exactly what I think the answer is. Right off the bat, pause the video real quick and let me know which one you think I'll pick. I'm really interested in seeing what you guys suspect my winner is. If you have any reasoning behind it, feel free to include that as well. Okay, so before I define exactly what I'll be looking at in a Wolfenstein-like board game experience, I wanted to quickly say thanks to all of my amazing patrons and YouTube members. Without their support, I would not be in a position I am today to give you these sorts of opinions. To everyone watching without an ad blocker, or those of you that share the videos out and like and comment on my videos to appease the YouTube AI gods, thank you as well. Together, we don't just make a fantastic online community, but one that can really make a difference in this industry we pump far too much of our hard-earned money into already. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. I'm beyond proud to be counted among you guys. Okay, now on to the cage match. I'm still working on the exact format of these videos as I plan on making this into a series. With your feedback, I'll continue to refine and improve these over time. Incidentally, the Wolfenstein IP proves a unique spin on a cage match, as I'll be looking at not just which board game is better, but also which one best captures the Wolfenstein feel. Now, Wolfenstein has been around for a long time, and the video games have changed quite a bit in that time. With this in mind, I've been replaying Wolfenstein 3D and Wolfenstein The New Order to refresh myself on both the old school and modern takes on the property. Just to make sure we're all starting on the same page, I'll briefly describe both games. Wolfenstein the board game is developed by Archon Studios, where up to 4 players infiltrate Castle Wolfenstein, ultimately fighting Mecha Hitler in the end. During a typical game session, players will try to silently kill enemies to not raise the alarm too soon by utilizing hidden paths and using either items or special hero abilities. Once the alarm sounds and the enemies swarm in, they will use specific ammo types to perform special abilities on their weapons to kill Nazis with brutal efficiency. Reichbusters Project Vril is developed by Mythic Games, and in the game up to 4 players will infiltrate Wewelsburg Castle to try and stop the Nazis from utilizing Project Vril. In a typical game session, players will attempt to get through as much of their mission as they can before the alarm is sounded. Once sounded, their grenades start flying and mayhem ensues. Now to compare them both to Wolfenstein the video game series. The problem with doing this is the problem of picking which Wolfenstein. The newer games really only share a concept more than gameplay and feel. If you've played Wolfenstein 3D, then you understand how it's a straightforward Nazi killing game where you have multiple weapons and then nothing but rooms and corridors. There is no sense of an alarm or stealth of any kind. You open a door, deal with the enemies in that room, and progress to the next one. Rinse, repeat. Additionally, you do all of this alone as a one-man army. Neither game really captures that feel, and sadly, what you can get from that is really mixed. Both have a full team of 4 no matter what, and as for that simplistic view on killing Nazis in a big castle, the raid mode for Reichbusters is set up in a way like that, where you're just going through a random level, no real story, just killing zombies in rooms and corridors. However, Reichbusters has far too many other gameplay mechanics that might provide a fun board game, but don't give it that simple let's kill Nazis vibe of the original Wolfenstein. The same is true for Wolfenstein the board game. With all the special abilities available to you and the massive amount of loot, it just doesn't really provide that feel. However, with its more streamlined nature of mechanics and fewer mechanics between you and killing Nazis, as well as the potential for 3D walls that look much closer to the traditional Castle Wolfenstein, as well as actually having traditional enemies like Mecha Hitler and the same health and armor system as the original game, I'll give the win to Wolfenstein the board game on this one, but this is only half the equation here. Because the other half is the newer series of the Wolfenstein games. These games come with all sorts of alternate firing modes for each weapon, weapon upgrades, a perk system, silenced weapons, stealth kills, and more. Additionally, while you still went solo through most missions, there was always a full roster of non-playable characters that sometimes actually take part in the action as well. So with that in mind, how do these games relate to those new games? Well, much better, frankly. Wolfenstein the board game, for instance, uses perks and other game systems like dual wielding directly into hero abilities. Some weapons allow you to do stealth kills. Many weapon abilities directly relate to the weapon alternate fire methods and improvements in the video game, and much more, such as the ability to cut through barricades. Lastly, there's the weapons themselves. In Wolfenstein the board game, you can swap weapons with ease, and you'll collect a lot of them so that you can use whatever weapon best fits each situation, just like in the video game series. Heck, you can even target officers in a map. Reichbusters lacks many of these game systems. You don't get a lot of weapons, there is no ammo system, no barricades, a completely different and unrelated armor system, a lack of mech-enhanced enemies, and in fact, really a loss of the sci-fi feel of Wolfenstein. What it does have, though, is the story and related feel of the newer Wolfensteins. Where Wolfenstein the board games take on the traditional delve into Castle Wolfenstein from the older games, Reichbusters' campaign story feels much closer in alignment with the modern games. If the game side of Wolfenstein is the most important, then I'd say go for Reichbusters. But for gameplay feel, you simply cannot beat Wolfenstein the board game's tailor-made mechanics that capture so much of the video game directly. Because of this, and overall for aligning with the IP, I am, to no surprise, giving the win to Wolfenstein the board game here. It is truly the video game captured into board game form with little compromise. I can hear you, by the way, yelling at the screen saying, "But KOA, what about which one is a better board game?" Let's talk about that now. Obviously, this is entirely subjective. The problem here is while they have the same roots, they are completely different games. They swing in different weight classes and honestly share very little in common gameplay-wise. But I'll start with similarities so I can compare like for like. Starting with the alarm system. In Wolfenstein, the board game, you have a hazard tracker. This only goes up if you kill an enemy loudly or if certain enemies see you. The hazard tracker can be manipulated with certain items, character abilities, enemy abilities, or the scenario itself. Once the alarm goes off, a designated amount of enemies immediately spawn onto the map. This is a really fun system actually. It's integrated into many other game systems and it's nice to be able to directly affect it and plan with it in mind. It makes the whole game feel really strategic and cohesive and not tacked on at all. Having the enemy spawns related to it be known is also a huge plus, as you know exactly how bad it's going to be when it happens. Coupled with having it tied directly into some objectives, like having to be at a certain spot on the map while it's an even number, and it's honestly one of my highlights for the game. It's very well implemented and a joy to interact with. Sadly, this is slightly mired by the noise tokens for rooms. It's not that the noise system is bad, far from it actually. Enemies adjacent to where noise is made will investigate, which I find highly thematic and easy to do in a board game setting. The problem is the tokens. I get why they are present so you don't forget the rooms, but I found it easy to track without these, and putting them on there just to remove them later is a minor annoyance. Reichbusters has a noise system and an alarm system, however it's pretty much the opposite of Wolfenstein. For the alarm system, the tracker here increases every round no matter what, and is otherwise increased by being spotted for too long by enemies, using loud equipment, or making noise. Once the alarm is sounded, your turn order becomes random and spawns are randomly made, making for a less strategic and more reactionary time with the game as you try to deal with whatever random order or random enemies that chance throws at you. The noise system here is also random, with a dice roll combined with a random noise card draw. Double random. The dice can sometimes be mildly manipulated, but it's quite rare unless a random card draw forces you to reroll some dice. And unlike in Wolfenstein the board game where noise is made for specific things, here noise is made for almost every single action you take. If you pick up loot dropped by enemies, you roll noise dice. If you open a door, you roll noise dice. If you shoot a gun, you roll noise dice. If you play a card that allows teammates to move, you roll noise dice. If you use half of the items in the game, you roll noise dice. Honestly, when playing this, you feel like it's just something you do after each action. Do an action, roll noise dice. Draw the random noise card, and then you normally do nothing. I'd wager in my game sessions, rolling noise dice actually mattered about 1 in every 8 or 10 rolls, and that's me trying to ensure I don't actually exaggerate. Only a few times in each play session did it really matter what the dice results were. Sadly, the noise system in Reichbusters is the low point of the whole game for me personally, and I feel like it takes more player engagement than any other part of the game, and for very, very little in return. It ends up being more like a timer than anything. Another win for Wolfenstein the board game. Next common trait is general map setup. They are all just rooms and corridors separated by doors. Here, it's much more of a toss-up. The map tiles and art are really good in Reichbusters. It's always a pleasure to look at, and the rune cards that lay on top of some of them are really well done. However, the layout isn't as important. In general, there's a path you'll take and then side stuff you probably won't go to. It helps set the stage, but doesn't offer a bunch of gameplay depth or replayability thanks to that timer I mentioned before. Wolfenstein the board game, on the other hand, has worse tiles, I feel. They are smaller, the art on them isn't as good, and it just doesn't flow as well, I feel. However, the layout of the maps are better. Thanks to noise being much more in your control, you can really pick and choose how you go about a map. While only having 2 to 3 paths each, that still offers far more versatility than Reichbusters. In the end, I consider this one a draw. Reichbusters has the better art and feel, and Wolfenstein with the better layouts. Now for what makes them unique. I want to start by saying that I really like the dice in Reichbusters more. It's simple and straightforward to use them, and they are far more traditional. They also have a wild star system that can be used for many different things, and that's always fun. Wolfenstein, on the other hand, has horrible dice. It's got a lot of them, and I love rolling lots of dice, but the layout is not fun at all and has far too many blanks for my tastes. That being said, the health and armor system in Wolfenstein is amazing and I love it. Seriously, it fits the IP so freaking well, and once again, it's integrated into the various game systems super well with abilities affecting all types of results. Reichbusters is no slouch though either, and this is when the cage match really amps up. The action card system it uses is glorious. First of all, I'm a sucker for good card play, but what I love most is the versatility this allows. Wolfenstein's action point system is really good, but I feel Reichbusters' action cards are the better of the two. Since it's cards, it just allows for so much more versatility. While there's no deck building, some heroes have decks that focus on movement, or group buffs, or whatever. It also means that you can have huge turns, which just feels awesome. By huge, I mean you can play 8 cards in one turn, giving you a ton of ways to just mow through Nazis with reckless abandon. It honestly is a great feature, and any game that specifically designs its mechanics to make you feel super powerful at times is fun in my books. Heck, it's one of the reasons I love Conan so much. Reichbusters has more stuff going for it as well, if you choose. One of the most interesting in my eyes is the captured hero mechanic on higher difficulties that makes it act as permadeath for that hero. This has very strong XCOM vibes for me, which is another video game series I adore. The idea that a captured hero is gone forever is huge in your mind as you play, and something I've really enjoyed. So who wins overall? Before I announce overall, I just want to say a few things. First, I like and enjoy both games. I don't think either of these games are bad. Both have faults and both have great things too. And they are two very different games. Reichbusters is a much heavier game, whereas Wolfenstein is a lighter game to consume. I also wanted to quickly thank you for watching the video. I sincerely hope that this video has helped you in some way. Okay, so the winner of the cage match is Wolfenstein the board game. While Reichbusters puts up a good fight and even has some better mechanics overall, its flub in the strategy department as well as the entire noise system combined with its focus on randomizing everything from spawns to items held it back from the win. As someone that appreciates high strategy and control of events, loves getting loot, and adores heavily streamlined game systems that interact with each other, Wolfenstein the board game deals this in spades. I know a lot of people might be saying, but it's from Archon Studios, and I'm here saying confidently, I know, and it's a great game. The fact that after writing this script, I specifically asked each member of my group which one they would rather play, and they all said Wolfenstein as well just reinforces it for me. It's just such an easy game to get to the table, isn't overinflated, has some great systems like the ammo and action point system, and overall is just a joy to play. Does that mean I won't be playing Reichbusters more? Of course not. I've enjoyed my time with it and will continue to do so. It's a much heavier game and has a very different feel. While I might house rule the noise system heavily, I have no plans of stopping with it anytime soon either. For a ton more information and a lot more pros and cons for Reichbusters, be sure to look out for my review soon, and props to it for putting up such a good fight. So, were you right in picking my winner? Do you think I'm right or wrong here? I'd love to discuss with all of you. Now, if you excuse me, I have some more Nazis to kill.